understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure. Before I see you again, before it all makes sense, but I can't hold you back. And I still don't understand where it came from, but you're back in with the passion. I'm awake with the flame in a hailstorm. I'm back in, I gotta have it. Everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Simulation Racing Leagues TCR series, and welcome to round 3 tonight here at the Zolder circuit in Belgium. And what a treat we are in for this evening. We were at the Charlotte Roval 2 weeks ago, and I've got to say that was a pretty hectic one. A lot of drivers, possibly with some vendettas against each other that will be acted upon tonight, but lots of drivers with lots to make up as well. Of course, reigning Season 1 champion Dan Mouldy had a brake issue last week. And just really couldn't get it resolved, couldn't piece it together, and didn't really score the points that he needed to remain at the top. So he's now under pressure from Ricardo Neto, so bear that in mind in tonight's race. And we're in for a treat as well, because I have somebody alongside me, Jack Johns. Welcome to the commentary box. And yeah, it's probably not the first for you, or the first time in the commentary box for you, but it's the first time commentating with me, so I feel sorry for you almost.
No, don't feel sorry for me, Jack. Thank you, and hello everyone that's watching. Good to be here. It's going to be interesting working with someone else, but going back to what you said about the vendettas from Charlotte Roval, this is a hell of a circuit to have something personal against another driver, especially with all the tight chicanes in this layout.
Absolutely. We've seen, we were here at season 1, of course, and the first chicane claimed a few drivers, and the Gilles Villeneuve chicane claimed a few more. It was more importantly, I think, the hairpin where everybody closed up on that first lap when we had best part of 30 cars all tearing towards the hairpin, jostling for position. There was actually quite a big incident. I think about 15 cars were involved come the end of that. So bear that in mind as well, because that will be an incredibly busy first lap, and what a brilliant race we were treated to as well between Andrew Lovesey and Dan Mould. I think Scott Tuffy was getting in on that battle as well. But we do have qualifying currently taking place, so we'll have a quick look. We're currently looking at John Brown. This is only his outlap, so he will have a flying lap to come. But we know what these drivers are like. They are aggressive. They will push for every thousandth, every tenth that they can get. And this circuit, like you say, it's a circuit, it's an odd one because you've got the really fast flowing corners, a bit of undulation in there, and the chicanes as well. So it's almost a perfect driver's circuit. There's lots of challenges, and this isn't the easiest car to drive, so it's going to sort the man from the boys, I think.
Absolutely, and just to point out, I'm sure people spotted it on the race info, but obviously this is the alternate layout. One thing that catches me out sometimes is not going for the tight chicane at the later half of the lap, but going through the flat out, pretty much flat out. I'm not sure what it's like in these cars, but a very fast chicane instead. Some people, I'm sure they've all practiced, but I hope no one takes the wrong chicane this time round.
Yeah, and of course, we've got to think, last season when we were here, we were on the original layout, so the one with the tighter final chicane, and that caught a lot of drivers out going into the pit lane because it was the 40-minute races. So the strategy had to play a part. But tonight, as per the rest of the season, and as the season has started, we only have two 20-minute sprint races, which seem to pack in double the action from last season into another race as well. So strategy won't play a part in this tonight, so it's all down to what the drivers can do out on circuit. They're all on very similar, if not the same setups, all got the same piece of machinery to work with. They've had the testing sessions and the practice sessions throughout the week, and we've almost figured throughout a season and a half worth of development and these drivers that qualifying is really where the race is almost decided, because if you can get up towards the front in qualifying, you're going to set yourself up for a perfect race. And especially around here, it doesn't look that tight, but when you've got 30 cars following you, being at the front is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Dan Mould, the current championship leader, he's currently lighting up the timing screens with a couple of purple sectors, but he's not the only one. There's a good 3-5 drivers out there. You can see Ashley Jafale down there also setting perfect purple sectors. So it's going to be a tight qualifying by the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time's just been set now. Neil Stevenson goes to the top of the pile, a 135.977. That's only provisionally, of course. And who else have we got going purple? Yeah, Ashley Gaffale, like you mentioned, for Ignium Motorsport, was going to set a very good time. I think that was actually a flying lap. He just didn't get it counted, so maybe he ran slightly wide somewhere. You can see all the drivers starting to post the times now. There you go, back to the normal. Dan Mould up to provisional pole position, a 135.459. And speaking of Ignium Motorsport, they do have a new driver here this evening. Callum Reid-Garton previously raced for his team, CRG Motorsport, during season 1, or the bit of season 1 that he did enter, and the start of season 2. But he has signed for Ignium Motorsport, and it almost seems like Ignium are using this championship as their proving ground, because they have a lot of drivers and a lot of talent. So the team championship by far and away will be being led by the Ignium Motorsport guys. But it's those inter-team rivalries which I'm looking forward to as well, because it's all well and good taking up most of the grid in that beautiful livery, but you've got to think these drivers, while they may be teammates, the gloves are off. They're going to properly go for this.
This is it, Jack. It's especially when you have more than a two-man team, it becomes just more fierce. It's you can't really control each other, especially if they're close on pace. You just really want to be careful. I'm sure some teams who have maybe been working together longer, they're going to give each other a slightly more room. They know each other's sort of little tips and tricks, where they're going to look, where they're not. But there's always still that risk where maybe a driver that feels like they're underperforming might just think, do you know what, I can have him here, and then sends it up the inside and just takes that extra risk that they weren't expecting. And then that's when sort of communication tends to break down.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've noticed throughout the previous season as well that teammates really do help you. Simtech Racing have got a couple of entries, SRL have a few themselves as well, and Ignium Motorsport, like I said, seem to flood the grid. Somebody who doesn't have a teammate but is still doing incredibly well in the championship is Tom Stanley for Asymmetric. He almost showed his true colours at Suzuka at the pre-season test. He was very competitive, very quick there. He's had a couple of unfortunate rounds, but tonight he's really going for this. He's showing everybody that while he may have had a few off rounds, they can be his drop rounds, and the rest of it, he's really going to be up towards the point end of the order. Still over half a second away from provisional pole position. Dan Mould with that 1:35.04. Incredibly quick time set the last time through. Tom Stanley has been dropped down to third place, provisionally of course, as Mark Draper goes up into second with a 1:35.08, only 400ths away from Dan Mould. Scott Tuffy further betters his lap time, the privateer entry, a 1:35.55. So the drivers slowly starting to find those extra few tenths of a second. Tom Stanley returns to the pit lane. Ricardo Neto, one of the drivers we've got to watch out for, because he is pushing the reigning champion Dan Mould up the timing screen all night. He was at Charlotte, definitely, and he's just hounding him everywhere. He was at Brands Hatch as well, so keep an eye on Ricardo Neto. Neil Stevenson goes up into what was third, now fourth, with a 1:35.52, beaten to the top three by Ashley Gaffale and Ignia Motorsport on 1:35.27. And while the session is slowly starting to close out, the drivers, of course, get 10 minutes or 3 laps, whichever comes first. Dan Mould crosses the line now. Does he improve upon his time? Does he ever? A 1:34.750, incredibly quick.
That is very quick, very quick. It's, I must say, just taken away from the times quickly, some of the cars we're going on board with, whoever's making these liveries, very smart looking cars on these Audis. I like some of the chrome effects, the asymmetric livery, the yellow one we was on board with, and look at this one, I haven't seen this one yet. Is that Simtech Racing?
It is indeed. Yes, the fully matte black Simtech Racing entry for Ben Dana. Do we have another Simtech car out on the road? We don't at the moment, but they all tend to have slightly different liveries. I think there was even a pink one out there at some point. I am a fan of Ricardo Neto's because I do like the spec map on that. And when, if you're watching, if you hear us speak about spec maps, that's just the finish on the paint. So you can see on Ricardo's car, he's got the matte black with the almost chrome red. It's incredibly shiny. So it's just the finish on the paint, and they are incredibly complex to get right. And like you said, Jack, just to see a livery with that done so well, the attention to detail, it just shows if they're willing to put that amount of effort into just the livery, they're going to really go for it during the race, and well, qualifying as well by the looks of it. Ricardo Neto up into provisional P4, 1:35.33.
Absolutely, looking very close to the top. 2 drivers actually making it into the 1:34s though. Mark Draper just sneaking in there by a tenth of a second, but very close through the field. We've got like the next 10 drivers in the 35s all the way down to Ben Denya with a 1:35.9, and then sort of still I can't get over how close some of these guys are. Like these cars, I don't know about you, Jack, if you've driven them, but I don't tend to get along with them. They're very understeery for me. Not easy to drive, but the way these guys throw them around, you wouldn't guess it.
No, they're almost famed for understeer, but these drivers, I'm not sure how they do it. I've hopped in a couple of practice sessions with them before, and they're so quick. I don't know how they find the time in the car. That's why I think I stay in the commentary box and out of the cockpit, really. But yeah, they really do drag every ounce of performance out of the Audi RS3s. Mark Draper, this won't be a time lap for him, just clearly getting some extra practice, finding the rev limiter by the sounds of it as well. We'll have a quick look at the championship standings while the session is closing out. So Dan Mould up at the top as expected for Ignia Motorsport on 137 points. Ricardo Neto not too far behind on 116. Then we drop out of the hundreds with Scott Tuffy in third. Once again, very consistent driver is Scott, and just brings in the points quietly, and keep an eye on him towards the tail end of the season. Obviously, we've got 4 drop rounds, but Scott, with his very consistent finishes, he may end up losing a few more than you expect. Neil Stevenson in 4th on 93, then it's Mark Draper on 89, Al Brown in 6th, Fraser Garrity 7th, Ben Denya in 8th, Anthony James Meyer in 9th, and Tom Stanley in 10th, and they'll just scroll through the rest so you can see who else is there. But just to see the amount of drivers tied on points, for example, Dean Catherwood, Derek Crowther both tied on 49 points, and Al Brown and Fraser Garrity both tied on 76. So it's all going to come down to what they can do tonight just to build up that gap towards the latter part of the season. Yeah, amazing. And we're only on round 3, so God knows what it's going to be like as the championship goes on. Looking at the grid here, you can see Dan Mould, number 80, Ignia Motorsport, 134.7. Mark Draper only a tenth behind, so very close. A little bit of a gap to Ashley Gaffale, but then Ricardo Neto right there. And then look at that. So big grid, big grid. Yeah, absolutely. And just to rattle you through the latter few rows, we've got Andy Lovesey, Neil Stevenson, Scott Tuffy, Tom Stanley, Dean Catherwood, Lee Dye, a new entry for this evening, Craig Walters, Ben Denyer. Then we get Fraser Garrity, Derek Crowther, Anthony Gaskin, Al Brown, John Brown, Anthony Meyer, Carl Lukeman, Callum Reed-Garton, Mike Wilson, another new entry, David Smith and Jason Guara rounds out the 23-strong grid. And I think we're already about to go green here. We are away. Round 3 of the SRL TCR Championship is away here at Zolder. It's a good start from the front row of the grid. And Dan Mould, it looks like Mark Draper is almost being elbowed out wide through turn 1. Does Ashley Gaffale get the better of him? There's a bit of contact in the background. The Simtech car was pretty sideways. Anthony Gaskin has had a few issues. There's Tom Stanley down, or he's gone up into 6th place now. He's gained a couple of positions. There's definitely lots of contact further back. Lee Dye didn't get the preferred start. He's lost 5 positions from where he started. So has Neil Stevenson. I think that was the Simtech car that we saw get sideways.
It was Ben Denyer. He's dropped down right down the order. I'm not sure what happened. I'm sure we can see a replay at some point. But Ben Denyer losing 8 places there out midfield. So let's have a look at this as we're coming down the main straight here. Dan Mould got a flying start there. It's just a tap from the rear. He goes round. He's going to hold it though. Well held on the grass there. Comes back on nice and safely. It actually doesn't cause many issues. So quite a clean crash actually in the end. Although it did sound like more contact in the back there. As you can see, a yellow car. The privateer of Mike Wilson, I think that is. Yeah, it is, yeah. So it's gone off and he's dropped right down the order. Yeah,
not sure what happened there. He might have just gone slightly too quick into that first chicane and has ended up pitching his car sideways. But back up to the front we go. It's a sea of Ignium Motorsport. Mark Draper, the black sheep, so to speak, sat there in 2nd place. Ashley Gaffale for Ignium Motorsport rounding out the top 3 at the moment. Then it's Andy Lovesey. Ricardo Neto has lost a position to Andy Lovesey, but knowing Ricardo, he's more than happy to sit underneath the rear wing and just pick his moment, pick his point, and then manage to get by. Tom Stanley, like we mentioned, with that good start, very sideways through the final corner. Can he keep it out the wall? He might lose a wing mirror. The Simtech car jumps off to the right-hand side. That was Dean Catherwood. Great avoidance driving. Scott Tuffy does the same, but all things considered, very well held from all drivers, very well read, and they all managed to continue without too much of an issue.
Yeah, this is, do you know what? Really exciting. I'm sure the viewers can agree, but so many battles going down the field. Dan Mould lighting up the timing screens, absolutely trying to get a gap to the rest of the field up front. So a couple of purple sectors somewhere near the back. That's Anthony James Meyer has got a purple sector 5 actually. He's gained 1 position, currently in 17th. Carl Lukeman up the road from him, but yeah, plenty of all still very close. There's no real gaps between this grid yet. Only on lap 2 of this race around Zolder.
Yeah, that's all you can see. Everybody just pushing each other around the circuit. Carl Lukeman with a new livery on his SRL car, and they seem to be changing every other week. The SRL liveries, but they do definitely work. You can see now Carl Lukeman hot on the heels of Lee Dye, pushing him through the Gilles Villeneuve chicane, figuring out the best point to attack. He can't hang around too long because he's got his teammate, like you mentioned, Jack, Anthony James Meyer, sat in the wings ready to work his way by if it all goes wrong. But like you say, Dan Mould, he's trying his best to bridge that gap. Purple Sector 2, Sector 3 and Sector 4, currently going through Sector 5 along this back straight. Mark Draper still giving chase, 6/10 adrift from the leader at the moment. Ashley Gaffale 7/10 then back from him, so the field, or at the front albeit, slightly starting to open up, and you can see it's 5 for the lead almost. The pack has already started to form. Dan Mould, Mark Draper, Ashley Gaffale, Andy Lovesey and Ricardo Neto.
Yeah, so Catherwood holding off the rest of the field. Maybe a bit of a train going to form behind him with Scott Tuffy. He's going to be looking to get past as soon as he can. He actually set a faster lap that time. Whether that was slipstream or does he have the pace advantage, I'm sure we'll find out. Scott Tuffy's not one to wait around from races that I've seen in the past, so I'm sure he does race cleanly though, so he might just pick his moment and wait to get past Catherwood there for P6 and try and chase these top 5 down.
Yeah, it seems like that is going to be the play. You can see gravel being kicked up in the background. Changes of position here. This is John Brown and Lee Dye still sparring away. A little further up, we've got Craig Walters and Fraser Garrity as well. It's an absolute train of cars down this back straight through Sector 1 on towards Sector 2. Almost weaving the car through the curb. Craig Walters deciding to ride one of them quite substantially, puts half the car skywards. He is rounding out the top 10 as it stands. Fraser Garrity for CRG Motorsport. He's going to give him a run for his money at the moment. I'm not sure whether we'll see Fraser with CRG for much longer. Of course, Callum Reed-Garton with that team change it may leave Fraser Garrity in a slightly odd position. Callum Reed-Garton, speaking of which, is right the way down in 22nd place, a minute behind Mike Walton. So I'm not 100% sure what has happened there, but it's not the best debut night for him.
Not at all. So I did see that he was in the pits for something, but I'm not sure. Didn't quite see him get involved in any accidents, but he was in the pits for a little while. As that's Guerrero down there as well. I think he's out of the race.
Yeah, I think we've already had a retirement. Look at the Ignia Motorsport car, just gets pitched in towards the number 23. Both go into the wall, and yeah, like you say, they're just glued together. Al Brown was the other car involved, and there's damage on both cars on lap 1. It looks like Al Brown got away with that slightly lightly, if I'm honest, as Callum Reed-Garton, like we say, right the way down in 22nd place. Al Brown's still out and circulating. He's still carrying that damage. I think he's decided, with it only being a 20-minute heat race, it's maybe not worth diving into the pits. If you can manage the damage until the end, that will be what works for you. A slight bit of a blink there for David Smith with another unique SRL livery out on show. But from where I'm sitting, we're definitely not in for a boring race. Just look at this lot.
Look at them. Don't go free wide into the chicane, boys. That's dangerous. Someone's flashing their lights. They're getting impatient. I don't know if that's Scott Tuffy. That's not going to work on Scott. He wants that P6 still. It looks like he's lost a bit of time there, so maybe free wide not the best. And look at the tyre marks at the chicane. Someone's cut that. I wonder if that might be a slowdown.
Yeah, I think that was Ashley Gafail, our third place driver. You can see him there. The two lead cars go by. Ashley Gafail just can't get it slowed down, jumps on the anchors and really can't get it slowed up into the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. He goes straight on, rattling through the gravel. Ricardo Neto has now got past Andy Lovesley. We've had an incident by the looks of it. If I can find him,
big.
Oh my God. Wow,
It is big.
That has just become a car park. You can see cars everywhere. You'd struggle to sell some of them for spares by the looks of it. Let's see how it all started. I think it was Derek Crowther going off the road. Had a slight issue. There's the Simtech car in the wall, the number 16. It just gets speared into the concrete wall. And I don't want to portion blame on anyone, because it's very difficult to with the amount of cars involved. As you can just see, everybody tries to get by. Al Brown does his best to avoid it. Jumps on the brakes, and then who is that? I think that's David Smith that gets caught up in it as well. So lots of damage, lots of yellow flags, I'm sure, through there. Back live for everyone. Very busy pit lane, but the race goes on.
That's right, 5 cars in the pits. I think looking at that, Derek Crowther's absolutely been shafted there. He almost avoided it, but the car bouncing back onto the track just pinned him against the wall. And with the new damage model on iRacing, that, as you say, especially in a 20-minute race, is race ending really. Those guys going to be fighting for the bottom end of the field now.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the live chat. We've got lots of Mark supporters by the looks of it. Dylan is definitely supporting Mark. So's Josh. So's Joe as well. So we will show you where Mark is. Not exactly the furthest jump back. Right the way in second place is Mr. Mark Draper at the moment. Just pushing Dan Mould around the Zolder circuit. Still over half the race to go. Only on lap 5 at the moment. Heading on towards lap 6 now. And Mark Draper, he's really got the best seats in the house here, because he's got the draft assistance of the leader, of course, so he will be putting pressure on the leader. A mistake, unlikely from Dan Mould, but it can still happen. Of course, we've had technical issues from Dan as well. Let's hope he's weaned them out, but it's still something to think about as well. And of course, Mark gets to watch where Dan Mould maybe breaks slightly earlier, turns in slightly later, and he can see where his opportunity will arise. You can see he's much, much quicker through turn 1. He looks to try and get the car set up for turns 2 and 3, but this is just what Mark Draper needs. He can sit behind, save a bit of fuel if he needs to, and of course he'll get the draft assistance, get that slight overspeed, but he can also pick his points.
I'm getting excited about this battle. Mark Draper looks like he's really got this under control, to be fair. I'm not surprised he's got some fans out there. There's a gap formed now with Ashley Gafail going over that chicane. There's a big gap behind them. You can see they're going to try and go side by side. It just looks like he's putting the pressure there on Dan. He's just going to try and force him into that mistake. Definitely 100% Draper with the upper hand at the moment. But like you said, Dan Mould, not an easy one to scare. But Neto is also going to be raring to get past Gafail for third, that last podium spot, and maybe try and catch these two up as we approach the halfway mark of the race. So we've still got just over 10 minutes left.
Yeah, so lots of action still to squeeze in. Of course, this is only heat 1. We've still got the feature race to go, another 20-minute heat race with the top 12 reversed as well. So that will throw a spanner in the works for a few of the drivers. Scott Tuffy, I think, has had a bit of a gravelly moment. I saw him drop back past Tom Stanley. Does he skip the chicane as well? They're side by side into the chicane. Do they make contact? Do they ever? Tom Stanley gives Scott Tuffy a helping hand around. I don't want to push and blame there either, but it looks like Scott Tuffy maybe gave a bit of a squeeze to Tom Stanley, but I'm sure that will be looked at the end of the race. As always, the race continues without too much of an issue. It's touring cars at the end of the day, so they will be getting their elbows out. A clean car at the, or if you, I can't remember who it was that said it the other week, if you finish one of these races with both your wing mirrors, you haven't raced properly, and couldn't really agree more. There's lots of cars with damage. I'm sure you could probably make one complete clean Audi RS3 with everybody on the field, but nothing much more than that. Closest cars we've got on circuit, the ones we're looking at, in fact, Dean Catherwood and Tom Stanley. And look at that, Tom having a big look up the inside, and we said he hasn't got a teammate to help him, but he doesn't need one. Look at that. In 7th place, he's gained 1 position, he's had a few incidents, he's still carrying damage on that car, but it's not going to stop him pushing for the top 6.
Yeah, indeed. I think Tom needs to be a little bit careful, though. Again, it depends on how you see the Scott Tuffy incident, but it does look like he's sticking his nose in those places. Again, it's an intimidation tactic, which does work, but sometimes people don't fall for that intimidation and will still turn in for their line, but that will result in what we saw with Scott there, I think, personally, back at that other thing. But we don't want that to happen to Catherwood here for 6th place. Just a quick point out to Callum Reid-Garton, who's now back up into 15th after all that chaos. Still a big gap to the next guy, but the fastest lap currently out there on track with the 134.6.
Yeah, 134.68. That would have been incredibly competitive in qualifying, let alone the race, of course, as well. He managed to get through that car park, the middle sector of the circuit, very well. Still an incredibly clean car. I'm assuming he picked up his fast repair while he was in the pit lane. But like you say,
yeah, missing the wing mirror, left-hand side, I think.
As expected, of course, you won't really. Yes, he is indeed. So you'll have to be careful with the stewards. Of course, that's weight missing now on that car, but he is still continuing on, setting those incredibly quick times, chasing down new entry of Mike Wilson, who is 8 seconds drift of Ben Denyer. So the field's slowly starting to spread out at the bottom, but the lead is almost as close as it's ever been. 3/10 separating Dan Mould and Mark Draper, and of course there's going to be a slight underlying rivalry here because Dan Mould used to race for Simulation Racing Leagues, moved to Ignium Motorsport, won season 1, and now he's got his ex-teammate chasing him down.
Wow, little story there. So like I said earlier, this doesn't look like it's going to hold off. It'll be really interesting. I mean, this is interesting enough, but in the next race when they're reversed, depending on who finishes first, of course, these two are going to be battling through the field together. They're so even on pace. Both doing 134.4s. So Dan actually taking that fastest lap away from Callum there. So both of them absolutely flying and still pulling away from those back three who aren't actually battling that hard. So they're not holding each other up back there. These two, just a pure pace advantage at this stage in the race.
Yeah, while they may be battling as well, you expect when two cars are properly going hammer and tongue, they will start to slow each other down, but they're almost speeding each other up, egging each other on to just go quicker and quicker and quicker. And yeah, we said it was impressive that CRG managed to set that incredibly quick time just a few laps ago, and of course he's in clean air with nobody around him, but these two pushing each other around and still going quicker, rattling through the final chicane we go now. 7 minutes of the race remaining. We cross the line to tick lap number 8 in the book, go on to lap number 9. Not quite as quick this time through. I think that's a slowdown possibly for Mark Draper. He's dropped right the way back, so that's almost concreted Dan Mould's top step. How far back is Ashley Gaffale? He does have a bit of traffic in between himself and the car in front, so I think Mark Draper is still fairly safe even after that incident. So maybe all that pace that he unlocked has helped him there just to remain in the position he was. Andy Lovesey has managed to get back past Ricardo Neto. Tom Stanley still trying to get past Dean Catherwood. I'm still curious to see what happened to Mark Draper because nothing's popped up to say that he cut the track, but he evidently did because there's no other reason why I can think he would slow down that much. Yeah,
massive slowdown. That's unfortunate because those two were looking to have a right battle right to the end, and it actually looked like, I feel like Gaffale would have got a lot closer than that. It looked like Lovesey going all over the back of him, so that's what we were talking about earlier, where teammates start fighting each other and actually end up costing time. I feel like they could have got a little bit closer there, but Lovesey clearly wanting to fight forward as we've got the blue SRL car there in front of them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who that is. Is it Craig Walters? It is indeed. He does pull over to the right-hand side of the circuit to let the Ignium Motorsport cars by. Ricardo Neto squeezes through as well before they get to the hairpin. So that three-way battle for the final step on the podium, of course, does manage to work through without losing much time at all. 5 minutes of the race remaining now. It's still Ashley Gaffale in the lead of this little trio. Then it's Andy Lovesey and Ricardo Neto. Dan Mould 2 4.1 seconds clear at the front. Mark Draper 2.4 seconds clear of the sparring trio behind. Then we've still got Tom Stanley trying to get past Dean Catherwood, but I think it's costing him more and more time because Scott Tuffy's getting in on the mix and Fraser Garrity's going with him, so it's almost a four-way battle, all for 6th place now.
Definitely, that looks like it's going to get close. I'm just looking at the order here, thinking who haven't we seen that much from? And at the midfield, obviously quite quiet, all by themselves, a little bit spread out. We've got Anthony Gaskin rounding off the top 10, the privateer, with a 4-second gap to that battle. Carl Lukeman in 11th, who's gained 8 places. I believe the biggest gainer of the lot, with Mike Wilson also gaining 7, so quite close. But yeah, a few people have made some major gains from whether it was that big crash with the 5-car pile-up or just keeping their nose clean.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's almost a balancing act in this series because, of course, they're touring cars. They're famed for getting their elbows out. They can take a bit of a beating, and you want to almost throw them around them like Carl Lukeman there, chucking it over to the left-hand side of the circuit just to get past. I think that's John Brown.
Straight up the inside of the chicane.
Entry. There you go. Yeah, nice late on the brakes and manages to work his way through. It is John Brown, so it is lapped traffic. It's not a change of position, but incredibly committed from Carl Lukeman. But like I say, it's a balancing act. You want to stay clean. You want to make sure you can carve through the field as cleanly as possible. But the only way to do that quickly is to almost usher people out the way, give them a little nudge into a corner, a bit of a bump and run, maybe just usher them out towards the gravel, slow them down a tiny bit in any way possible.
Ooh.
Because, like we said, it's so close, and they're just proving us right here, Jack, because Dean Catherwood, Tom Stanley still going at it.
Oh, there's a bit of a nudge there on the rear right of the blue car as they're coming through that final chicane. They're coming across the main straight now. He's going to be all over the back of him into turn 1. He's going to have slipstream down this main straight. Scott Tuffy is going to be licking his lips into turn 1 because he thinks, I guarantee in that position, he's just going to watch this battle and he's going to pick his place and he's going to try and gain both positions at once as they're still going side by side now through the next right-hander. So it's going to come around this right-hander. Scott Tuffy's going to follow through the lead car. And there we go. He's going to go up the inside. He's gained both positions. Can he hold it through this next fast right? It looks like he's got the move done. Can he get it back in front for the chicane, or is the asymmetric car going to hold it around his left-hand side? This is now going to be tough for Scott Tuffy. He's now on the outside of the chicane, and you've got the blue car just behind. He is going to want to get that position back, and it looks like he has. I don't know if that was damage. Look at there. There's a bit of contact there. It's getting very feisty, Jack. Very feisty with this group of 3.
It is indeed. 3 minutes of the race remaining, and they're battling like it's the last lap. I'm guessing we will end up getting 13 laps chalked in the books come the end of the race, and you can see how much Tom Stanley was just not being held up, but Dean Catherwood was the cork in the bottle, really. As soon as Tom got by, he's just managed to make good his escape, leave Dean Catherwood with the attentions of Stuffy, and he's dropped him completely. And of course, Fraser Garrity, he's had the best seats in the house. I bet he sat there and said, well, I'm happy to sit here if I get a show like this. He's now chasing down Scott Tuffy, and like you say, Stuffy went from hero to zero. He was then in front for a short while of Tom Stanley, up in 6th place. He's now back down into 8th with more damage on that car. We saw bits of cargo flying off the front end of Scott's car and off the tail end of Catherwood's car, and they still continue on. And while I said Tom Stanley had made good his escape, I think Catherwood heard me, because he's now back hot on the heels of the asymmetric car, doing what he can in the closing stages of the race. 2 minutes to go.
Absolutely chasing him down. Scott Tuffy goes wide there. He's going for a little rally drive by himself. That's going to give the position to... Is that Garrity that's gone through? Yes, it is. So Garrity's gone through and gained 8th place. Scott Tuffy, I think... I know Slipstream can be strong, but just looking at that battle that they had down that main straight towards the chicane, I think from an earlier crash, he's lost a bit of top-end speed there because that move looked like it was done. And every time they get to a straight, it just seems like he drops back a little bit. So cornering speed still fine, but top-end definitely missing a bit, I reckon, for Scott.
Yeah, it's such a shame because Scott, he's definitely got the potential, and he's had some great results throughout Season 1 and Season 2. It's just the occasional little bump here and there, and being caught up in little battles that he maybe can't afford. It just costs him the points and, of course, the prizes as well from the end of the season. But this battle has slowly started to get opened up a little bit. Look at that though, Andy Lovesey literally being pushed by Ricardo Neto and the GRT entry. This is the battle for 4th place respectively. There's a bit of traffic in front as well. I think that could be, let's have a quick look over to the left hand side. I think that's David Smith just up the road from the pair of them. We're going on to the last lap of the race this time by, I believe, as Dan Mould is still led by Dan Mould is the race. Then it's Mark Draper, Ashley Gaffale. Then it's back to these two, Andy Lovesey and Ricardo Neto. Probably not the most advisable place to get past lap traffic, but they do manage to do so fairly quickly. Ricardo Neto dropped back to about half a second now away from Andy Lovesey, but we know what Ricardo's like. He's incredibly quick, incredibly competitive, and he will battle this till the line for that 4th place.
Absolutely, not long to go now. 20 seconds left on the timer up there. Neto's looking like he really wants this. He's just going to have to wait for an opportunity. I don't think, well, he could prove me wrong, absolutely, but I don't think he's got the pace to gain this 4th place in the time that's left. However, Lovesey could make a mistake. The chicanes are quite hefty. The curbs are massive. David Smith kind of hindered him a little bit, actually, there. But it was the same for both of them. He went to the inside. They both had to go around the outside, so it's just going to see who can cross that line first.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it comes down to. Even after 20 minutes of racing, you'd think they're on the first lap, just absolutely hounding each other around this Zolder circuit. But there is Dan Mould going through the hairpin, through the little S, and then onto the back straight. It's been a dominating drive, as is expected from Dan Mould. The technical issues of Charlotte haven't struck again. He's managed to get to the front with qualifying, got the dream start, left Mark Draper in the dust after a slight issue, and there you go, ladies and gentlemen, heat 1 of the night at round 3 here at Zolder is won by Dan Mould. You'd expect nothing less from the reigning champion, further extends that lead margin in the championship. Then it's Mark Draper crossing the line in P2, Ashley Gaffale rounds out your podium, then it's Andy Lovesey and Ricardo Neto. You can see the drivers celebrating up the road, and then it comes back to Tom Stanley gets the better of Dean Catherwood. Fraser Garrity there in 8th, Scott Tuffy recovers to 9th, and Anthony Gaskin tearing down the start-finish straight to round out the top 10, and that was just Heat 1. We've still got the reverse grid race on the way, so the top 12 reverse, so it means Dan Mould will be right the way down in P12, Mark Draper in P11, so on and so forth, but it does crucially mean the two drivers, the two closest match drivers up at the front have been put in the mid-pack, so it's gonna be even closer if that's even possible, Jack.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they go through the field, actually, because being at that top end, for example, Dan Mould won the championship last year. He might be used to being in front. It seems like he can handle himself well under pressure, so he's definitely been in that situation a lot. But can it be, and I'm not judging him so far, I haven't seen a lot of the previous rounds, but I know he can race. But it's going to be really interesting to see him, Mark, Neto as well, Lovesey, Gaffale, all of them fight through that field once they've been reversed, because I can guarantee you, people like Scott Tuffy, who we were watching back there, Gaskin, Garrity, they're not going to be easy to pass either. They might have the slight pace advantage, but this track, they're definitely going to put up a little fight and defend those positions.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see lots of battles throughout the field. I'm hoping that we'll end up with the results popping up on screen in a few moments' time. Don't seem to play ball at the moment. We'll give it one more go. Let's see whether that does it. And there we go. Dan Mould takes top honours, as previously mentioned, 4.3 seconds clear of Mark Draper and Simulation Racing Leagues. Then it's Ashley Gaffale in 3rd, Andy Lovesey 4th, Ricardo Neto 5th, 6th was Tom Stanley, Dean Catherwood in 7th, then it was Fraser Garrity in 8th, Scott Tuffy in 9th, Anthony Gaskin rounds out your top 10, then it was Carl Ligman, Ben Denyer, Lee Dye, Mike Wilson, the two newbies this evening, finishing 13th and 14th. Then it's Callum Reid-Garton, Craig Walters, John Brown, then Al Brown in 18th, and then I think we get on to our retirees. Where are we? There is Neil Stevenson. David Smith finishes 2 laps down. Then we get onto the retirements of Derek Crowther, Anthony Myatt, and Jason Guara. I don't think took to the grid or retired on the first lap. But we do have a 5-minute warm-up session for the drivers. Just a little breather between heats 1 and 2. So we will be back with you in about 4 minutes' time. Already a minute into this session. I don't know where the time's gone. But don't go anywhere. 4 minutes time from now, and we will be back with you for race 2 of the night.
Sometimes when you're here, I can feel no doubts, 'cause you keep me where the stars are found. It doesn't really matter, 'cause you're here with me now. It doesn't really matter, 'cause I feel so free now.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Simulation Racing Leagues TCR series. Welcome back to round 3 here at the Zolder alternate circuit, and heat 2 is about to get underway. We will get the grid up on screen for you so you can see what is going to be the starting order. We've got Ben Dana on pole position, Carl Lukeman alongside Anthony Gaskin on row 2 with Scott Tuffy for company. Then it's Fraser Garrity in 5th, Dean Catherwood 6th, Tom Stanley 7th, Ricardo Neto 8th, then it's Andy Lovesley in 9th, Ashley Gaffel rounds out the top 10, Mark Draper in 11th, then it's Dan Mould in 12th, Lee Dye, Mike Wilson, Callum Ridgarton, Craig Walters, John Brown, Al Brown, Neil Stevenson, David Smith, Derek Crowther, Anthony James Myatt and Jason Guara rounds out the grid. And I'm sure we'll end up with the lights up on screen in a few moments' time. There is our pole sitter, Ben Dana for Simtech Racing. Good start from himself, bogs down slightly as he goes for second gear. Carl Lukeman gets the better start of the two, to be honest. You can see Scott Tuffy really looking to make moves. He's already up towards the front, 3 wide in towards turn 1. Scott Tuffy all the way around the outside he goes, and Scott into the lead. Great stuff from the number 21 machine. Then it's Carl Lukeman in 2nd, Anthony Gaskin 3rd, Tom Stanley already up into 4th place. He's made 3 positions in the space of 2 corners. Then it's Ben Dena in already down in 5th place. He's lost 4. Not the greatest start from himself. It looked like he got a good start from the front row, but it all went wrong from there. Carl Lukeman is now in the lead. He takes the pointy end of the order away from Scott Tuffy, Jack. But look at that train of cars, and of course we've got the faster drivers in the mid-pack now, so it could all still go wrong.
I can't believe what I've just seen. The start that Lukeman got was absolutely amazing. But then Scott Tuffy round the outside of 2 cars round turn 1, taking the lead, and then he lost it straight away. Carl Lukeman looking very feisty and wanting that win. Dena, though, fully bogging down to 5th. I think once you get that poor start, you just get muscled out down the field. Everyone's so close as there's contact behind. Scott Tuffy's cut the chicane. Someone's going off to the left. That's one of the blue SimSport cars. Fraser Garrity. That's who we're watching here. So it was him that had a little bit of a touch there and went off onto the gravel. Scott Tuffy doesn't look like he's lost out too much when he cut the chicane, but very close as there was some more side-by-side action there. The asymmetric car in 3rd place, holding off the rest of the field as a little bit of a gap seems to be forming between the lead, Lukeman, and Scott Tuffy in 2nd.
Yeah, it seems like that is the way to go. Who's that going very slowly down the straight? That's Andy Lovesley. He must have had a slowdown. Either way, it's now promoted Dan Mould up into, well,
That's
what was
not
9th
good.
place.
What's happened there?
That is Scott Tuffy pulling over to the left-hand side. It was all looking so good for him. Ben Dena does so as well. So let's see what happened there. Scott Tuffy pulls over to the left-hand side of the screen. Ben Dena goes flying towards the pit wall. No idea what happened there. Let's have another quick look. It just goes over to the right-hand side.
Yeah, it looks like he done it himself. I don't know if Scott Tuffy's got an issue with hardware, but yeah, both of the top drivers having major issues there. I don't know if that stemmed from contact earlier on. Maybe the new damage model really kicking in with those wheels. We know people tend to lose wheels with contact. Look at that. Yeah, it looks really hard to control. So maybe he's lost the rear wheel or something earlier on in the lap. That's they're going to be interesting. I don't know if they're around for interviews after this, but that is going to be an interesting conversation. But back to the front. Tom Stanley, he's going to be loving life. He's up 5 positions into second place. Anthony Gaskin in third, and Carl Lukeman still in the lead. Now nearly 2 seconds ahead.
Yeah, it's been a dream start for himself. We're currently looking at the woodland, so I'm not 100% sure what has happened there. There is Dean Catherwood, emerges from the trees. Even further down the order than I expected, right the way down in 14th place. Now Ricardo Neto's had an incident as well. The front right-hand side of the car seems to be on the deck, so it looks like he's had some sort of suspension issue. Not sure what has happened there, but it's all going off in the mid-pack. However, at the front, Carl Lukeman's sitting pretty. He is 1.7 seconds clear from Tom Stanley. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts, though. Not to take away from Carl Lukeman, he's an incredibly talented driver, doing great things up at the front of the order. And look at that, Carl Lukeman and Anthony Gaskin, identical fastest lap times. I've never seen that before. Both of them setting 1:36.498, so it just shows how close the front of this field is. Carl Lukeman's still there in the lead. Tom Stanley in second, Anthony Gaskin in third. Ashley Gaffale up 6 places. Mark Draper up 6 places. Dan Mould up 6 places. Mike Wilson up 7. John Brown up 9, and if you thought that was good, Anthony James Meyer up 11 places. So some huge movers in the field. We've seen a few little incidents and quite a large one on the start-finish straight, but these guys, they're all looking very, very quick at the moment. Very clean cars. How long that lasts, I don't know. We're 4 minutes into a 20-minute race, and knowing these guys, they will make the most of every minute they have available to them.
Yeah, there's still a few drivers out there that are close as someone clatters those chicane curves. We've got, a couple of drivers still in the pits and still out. I will say, Mould and Draper, 5th and 6th, up. That they can't have asked for a better start. Ricardo Neto, it's going to be a shame for him, as you just showed him there. He's on board. I don't know what's going on in this race. There's people's cars are just braking left, right, and centre.
Yeah, Ricardo Neto went off the road. Then apparently he went off the road before that as well. So does he hit a curb slightly hard or something? Oh, very, very sideways, very quickly plows into the tail end of the number 11 machine, and that will be what happened to. It's the 111. That was Dean Catherwood. That's why we saw him in there. Look at that. Ricardo Neto's car looks very, very second hand. Front right hand of that car is definitely not going anywhere it wants to, and that was what happened to Dean Catherwood, hence why we saw him going very slowly and emerging from the woodland. Tom Stanley sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:35.35. I'm going to have to catch a breath in a minute, but I'm not sure they're going to let me. Look at that, Tom Stanley up the inside through sector 1, through turns 2 and 3. He is now in the lead, albeit by half a car length. In towards turn 4 they go, and it's now Tom Stanley in the lead for asymmetric. Carl Lukeman down now in second place, and I told you to keep an eye on them. How long that would last, I wouldn't know. It only lasted 1 lap, albeit. So Carl Lukeman now looking to fight back, and if these two keep on battling away the way they are, they're going to slow each other down. Anthony Gaskin there to pick up the pieces, and he'll be picking up the pieces of Carl Lukeman's engine by the looks of that, and bouncing over the curbs, tearing the underside of the car off. And it just shows one little mistake, it can lead to another and another and another. And now look at that, within the clutches of Anthony Gaskin. So it's once again gone from 0 to hero. Scott Tuffy is already out of the race. Andy Lovesey, so is Callum Reed-Garton. It's all going wrong for all these quick drivers. Ricardo Neto's still in the pit lane, of course. However, it's developed into a great race up at the front.
That's right, and just a quick note, Draper's actually passed Mould at some point, so he's now up into 5th. So Dan Mould now having to overtake effectively his biggest challenger in the last race, and they have to be so careful around this circuit, but especially from what we've seen so far. The damage just seeming extremely. Here we go, he's going up the inside of turn 1. Dan's a very smart driver, he's probably just going to let that happen. He actually goes deep. That was probably a bit further than he wanted to go. And then Mark Draper gaining that position fair and square, no contact, no rubbing. Very clean driving from the two of them, but they are catching up another Ignia Motorsport car. That is Gaffale. So I wonder if team play is going to come into this as Draper sets the fastest lap, 35.0. Is Gaffale going to help out Mould, or is he in this race for himself? I'm not sure how close these guys are. But yeah, damage model. Quite impressive, actually. They need to be careful with any nudges because Neto lost the wheel.
Yeah, he did indeed. It wasn't the biggest of hits, but it was still substantial enough to break that car. It's going to be a tricky one for Dan Mould and Ashley Gaffale, of course, with Mark Draper being the meat in the Ignia Motorsport sandwich. They are all in the same general chat. I just had a quick look over at the Discord. They are all in the same chat, so I'm sure Dan Mould doesn't want to be heard saying, "Go on, slow him down, Ashley, will you? Just make sure you slow him up into me." But yeah, I'm not sure whether it'll be subconscious and it will happen anyway. Dan Mould on the rear bumper of Mark Draper through the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. And of course, Mark Draper, he wants to focus all of his attentions on the Ignia motorsport car up the road, because where he looks is hopefully where he'll go, and he's trying to get past Ashley Gaffale, but of course he cannot stop looking in his rearview mirror because Dan Mould is there and he is willing to do whatever it takes to get back past. And of course, points are on the line here. It's only round 3, but with this being the 6th point scoring race of the season, this is where you want to get these good haul of points so you can afford to have maybe a few off rounds throughout the rest of the season. Very close to the tyre stacks was Ashley Gaffale on the exit of the final corner there, but look now, Mark Draper back within touching distance of Dan Mould, so it's all slowly starting to undulate. Dan Mould with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:34.832, and I can imagine they're only going to get closer. And of course, Tom Stanley sitting pretty, 3.1 seconds clear at the front.
Yeah, Mould absolutely all over the back of Draper. It does look like Draper wants that position, but I don't think Gaffale was holding him up too much. I'm sure that you will know this more than me. Mould seems to be actually taking it pretty cautious at this early stage of the race, and I don't know if that's because he's well aware of the brake issue that he had in the previous rounds, costing him a lot of points. And I'm not saying that he's going to settle for 6th, but he's definitely going to pick his moves wisely as to try and get as many points as he can this round.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to make sure he picks his points, and like you say, he's almost got to play it slightly safe. He had a very good race 1 of the evening, of course, taking maximum points, but now with more points on offer, he just can't go throwing this away. There's a sea of cars in front of him. He's got Mark Draper, of course, then his teammate Ashley Gaffale, but Carl Lukeman and Anthony Gaskin have been battling away so hard. They've slowed each other up. A big lunge for Carl Lukeman. Jack Johnson says exactly what I was thinking, and almost making contact. They're still side by side going onto the back straight now, so it's Anthony Gaskin now in front. He will have the inside line, yeah, and 2 into 1 doesn't go. They give it a good go, almost contact again. One of the cars does have to cut the chicane. That's Carl Lukeman. He's lost 1 position to Anthony Gaskin. He's now lost another to Ashley Gaffale. If we're lucky, they'll end up being 3-4 wide in towards turn 1, but it's now, look at this, Ashley Gaffale read that absolutely perfectly. He's now pushing for 2nd place. Anthony Gaskin is trying to fend him off. Dan Mould still at the back of this pack. Carl Lukeman trying to fend off his ex-teammate, but we've got to remember, Mark Draper and Dan Mould, if they move through this pack as a pair, they're going to come out of it as a pair as well. So these are the 2 leaders from race 1, now battling in race 2, and look at that, they try and sneak up the inside of Anthony Gaskin. I know Ashley Gaffale has done so. They tried to follow him through, can't quite get the move done, but this is 5 cars all sparring away for the podium positions.
Absolutely, Gaffale needs to make the most of this now and get a little bit of a pull away now that Gaskin's in between the rest of the battle. Mould looking there to try and intimidate Draper out of the way. Not quite working. The biggest loser out of all this, unfortunately, Lukeman absolutely dropping down the order as all the three let's say big boys just try pushing their way through and getting back up to that top end.
Yeah, that seems to be the complexion of that little battle. Of course, we've got to remember Carl Lukeman was leading the race for a short while. It's just all started to come undone from him. Whether he's got a slight bit of damage aboard that car, I'm not 100% sure, but he only seems to be going backwards at this point. Look at that now, Dan Mould pushing Draper in towards the hairpin, almost contact with the tail end of Anthony Gaskin there for Mark Draper. They go onto the back straight once again, and it's still Dan Mould bump drafting almost.
Draper's driving smart, heavily defending into these hairpins and chicanes. He does not want to give that position up at all.
Yeah, absolutely. A slight gravelly moment there, cutting the chicane. You could see it pop up on the timing screen. So he's evidently pushing the limits of that car, pushing the limits of himself. And like you say, a big lunge up the inside, driving careful. Or so we thought until turn 1. It's all come undone for Mark Draper in towards the tail end of Anthony Gaskin. Maybe slightly later on the brakes, or earlier on the brakes, than Mark Draper was expecting. He loses all his momentum, he loses all the positions he's fought for, down to 6th place, and that has left Dan Mould free. The cork is out of the bottle, currently in P3, so the final spot on the podium, and he's got his teammate up the road. He's in a great position now, Dan Mould, so he's gone from having to battle tooth and nail there for 4th place to 3rd place, and he's sitting pretty with his teammate up the road, and his main rival has still got 2 cars to get past before he can even think about making up the 5 seconds he needs to get back to him.
Absolutely. On every straight, he'll be taking his hands off the wheel and clapping after seeing that, because he is he's on the podium spots. Like you said, he's got his teammate up ahead. Stanley's still currently leading. Quite a fair gap, but yeah, that's unfortunate for Draper. He's lost out there. Like you said, he's just been caught out by that braking zone into turn 1. Gaskin a little bit slower than he expected. But that's going to be disheartening for his sort of mental attitude throughout this race. You can see here, this is the nose cam. I'll let you take over.
I just wanted to have another look. So we look back now, we can see Dan Mould definitely there and almost pushing him through the chicane. You'll see here Mark Draper just grabs that gravel on the inside. Now looking forward from Mark Draper, we know Dan Mould doesn't necessarily go for the move. Mark makes his intentions known, has a look to the inside much later on the brakes. It's a tricky one. You know he wants to make the corner, and you know it's almost like the Anthony Gaskin is slightly slower than you would expect anyway. For me, both cars I would have to put at fault if you had to put specifically one, possibly Mark Draper, because he's the one that's almost in charge of that that overtaking move, trying to get by. It's such a shame that it finished that way, but we know what Mark Draper's like. There you go. He's now up in front of Carl Lukeman, chasing down Anthony Gaskin, and he will not give up. We've got his fan club in chat this evening, and we've heard that Mark Draper will definitely not give up. He's up 6 places, and nothing will stop him making that 7, chasing down Anthony Gaskin. The leader, Tom Stanley, is up 6 places, and he's got a behemoth of a gap, 5.5 seconds back to Ashley Gaffale, who's only 2.2 seconds adrift now of Dan Mould. So Dan is definitely hunting down his teammate, bringing that gap closer.
Indeed, whilst all this is going on, Stanley's just been sort of holding that gap. He's nicely done. We're 14 minutes in, so only 6 minutes he's got to hold it for. Going back to Draper, I think the most he could ask for now is to get past Gaskin. It just depends if he's got, just like Scott Tuffley in the race before, has he got that top end loss from the front end impact? I think, like you said, that the turn 1 incident, it's going to be a racing incident. There's no one at fault there really. The gap was quite large. I probably would have made the same mistake. I'm not saying I carry as much speed as Draper through turn 1. I probably would have been on the receiving end, but yeah, it's just misread. It's just a racing incident from them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like you can massively apportion any blame on either driver, and like you say, it's not like he did it on purpose. It just happened. He went for the move that thought was there in a closing door, and annoyingly, it came to an ending that we didn't really like to see. But it's really left Ignia Motorsport in quite a handy little position, because they've got both their boys, Ashley Gaffale and Dan Mould, in the podium places. Tom Stanley, we said keep an eye on him. We were looking at him chasing down Carl Lukeman for 4th place. He's now in the lead and 5.4 seconds clear. Speaking of Carl Lukeman, he is still in 6th place. However, he's got a different car in front of him now. Anthony Gaskin there in 5th. Mark Draper back up into 4th place, fending off the attentions of the privateer entry, and does so successfully in the background, side by side. A bit of door-to-door contact, I think. But Mark Draper, that's all in his rearview mirror now. He does not need to bother. 8/10 clear, chasing down Dan Mould, 4.1 seconds up the road. For me, I don't think it's going to happen unless there's some sort of incident, which is highly unlikely, I think, for Dan, as he's chasing down his teammate. So I can't see an incident there. It'll have to be a mistake.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know what, though? He's not hindered as much as I thought he was. He caught Gaskin up a lot faster than expected. Yes, there's a pace difference, but that top end is needed down those straights. It doesn't look like his car's hindered too much. Lukeman just wanted to... I can see exactly what he wanted to do there. Just wanted to follow him through that chicane, but Gaskin just holding the inside of that second apex, and then just ended up with Lukeman being forced out wide and then holding station. But he's still looking feisty, and he's going to want that position. He knows that he's slightly faster, and he is going to want that in the next 4 minutes to get P5, top 5.
Yeah, it's going to have to be the target for him, of course. Top 6 is always nice, but you know, he's not really talked about as much as top 5. So Anthony Gaskin, he is going to have to set his sights on Mark Draper and keeping up with him, because otherwise, as soon as he lets a slight bit of distraction in, then makes a slight little mistake, that's going to be Carl Lukeman all over his tail. Here is John Brown chasing down Al Brown for 8th place, respectively. I didn't really see much of it, but 4 tenths apart now. They're only getting closer.
Getting closer, and up 10 places for Al Brown and 8 places for John. So they've had all right races. Again, I don't know if it's just because they've kept their nose clean. It looks like there might be a little bit of damage on that car, but yeah, a little bit of a gap to lead eye, but these two looking like they might be fighting for that P8.
Yeah, it seems like that is the case. A bit of a wobbly moment there for John Brown. Very well held, braking on the grass. 9 times out of 10, you'll end up swapping ends and pointing the wrong way. But he does manage to get that moment collected up. Does lose a bit of time to Al up the road. Does John? And of course, we've got to remember that John Brown is a privateer entry. He has no help, and he is massively improved from his season 1 efforts. And it's great to see John out there and circulating, and like you say, he's battling for 8th place now, so he's come on leaps and bounds as a driver, and it definitely shows with the live timing as well, up 8 places, and like you say, Al Brown up 10. So whether they've just worked through the pack together, and they're probably not battling, they're just going, yeah, okay, if you follow me, I'll follow you for a lap, and we'll just swap it round. But it seems like that's what they've done, kept their nose clean, got through the battles, got through the incidents, and they're just working. They're going through these battles as a one almost, and not as 2 separate cars.
Yeah, you can see John Brown's definitely had a nudge up the bum at some point with that boot, but yeah, definitely kept it clean for the most. I can't help but feel for some of those that have been out for quite a while. You had some big names in there. Neto fighting for this championship. He's down there. Scott Tuffy's down there. Andrew Lovesey, Ignium Motorsport. CRG, Ignium Motorsport. Big names. And obviously Derek Crover's down there as well. Neil Stevenson. All over a lap down. Look at this battle on track. So we're on board with Dan Mould. Is he going to make this move for P2? This is what we were talking about earlier. Are they going to communicate? You said they're in the same Discord. Are they talking about this, or are they dead silent, stressing each other out through this chicane? This is extremely close. There's only 1 minute left.
I know, they've got...
Dan doesn't... Go on. Dan doesn't look like he wants to let this happen. He really does want this position.
I know, it's mixed signals from Dan, because he was going for it, and then lifted off, I think I heard, when he went over the brow in towards the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. However, he's now hot on the heels once again. They can't afford to slow each other down. Like you say, only 1 minute of the race remaining. We're going on to the last lap. Worst comes to worst, and they do hit each other. Of all people, it's Mark Draper that's going to reap the rewards from this. Look at that very, very... sideways moment for Ashley Gaffale, touched the grass. You could see the tail end of the car wiggle. Now in towards turn 1 we go. Still Dan Mould, the trailing car. Ashley Gaffale, the lead car. How long this will last, I don't know. Teammates side by side now through turns 2 and 3. Dan Mould looks for the wider line on entry, looking to shallow out the exit. Doesn't quite get the cutback I was expecting, but these two still battling away. 3.7 seconds adrift is Mark Draper. And then Tom Stanley is still up at the front. Al Brown, John Brown still changing for position further back. But I just can't risk looking away from this battle. Now look at this. Dan Mould is in front and he is secure. Look at that Ashley Gaffale. Yeah. He's left without much to do there. He's just out-dragged him down the straight.
That looked too easy. I'm not saying he let him past, but it did look too easy in the end. Although, tight onto the chicanes. Having to hold it around the outside of that chicane is a bit of a risk for Dan. But these two... don't look like they've taken too many risks. It looked like they were going to, but in the end, it's actually worked out quite nicely, especially for Dan Mould. And look at these, we're back with the Brown boys. The Hamilton car all over the back of him. We're running out of opportunities now, so this is the final lap. Can John get past Al in the green Jordan logoed car up there? Second to last chicane now, so they're coming down the back straight. This is Tom Stanley, our leader, coming through the final chicane. This is the final lap. He moves over to the right-hand side, and he's weaving. He knows he's done it. It's an easy win for him. Look at the gap behind. 7-second lead. The car number 961, and then these two, the teammates, Dan Mould and Gaffale, second and third. Very close between them. 3/10 as they cross the line. Dan extremely he's not going to be able to complain about this weekend. A first and a second. That's Draper in fourth, Lukeman in fifth, Gaskin in sixth, and then we're on board with Dye in the Chrome Pertec car, 7th place. And then it looks like there may have been an issue with the Brown boys, because we've got Al Brown in P8, John Brown down to P10, so Geraghty gaining P9 on the last lap.
Yeah, it seems like the top 10 have had a bit of a shuffle around. We'll have a little look through the order just to see what happened. I'm just looking over at the timing screen. They were definitely swapping places, because it goes Al Brown past John Brown, John Brown past Al Brown past John Brown. So they're definitely battling away, and then it all stops. So let's see what happened here. This is down the back straight. This is where they were swapping places, and this is where we left them almost, wasn't it? So it'd be interesting to see how it all came about. There is Al Brown, who did finish in 8th place. I want to have a look at John Brown, because this is evidently what went wrong for him. In towards the Gilles Villeneuve chicane, we know he's been pushing the limits of that car, braking on the grass and using every ounce of performance. Yeah, that's what I fear. It's such an easy corner to get right, but it's such an easy corner to get wrong. So let's see what happens. Talk us through what you see.
Well, you can see here, so he's in the slipstream. They're coming up to the heaviest braking zone on the track, I believe. Is he going to have a look? He absolutely sends it down the inside, and he's locked up. He goes straight on himself. I think that opportunistic is the word for that one. But It was worth a go. He wanted that position. Look at him. So they come through the chicane here, nicely lining up. He knows he's a little bit faster, but he probably was also aware that he's running out of opportunities. Sorry, to get past. One more braking zone. I don't think they have to brake that hard for that final chicane. So this hairpin was really the only place you could do it. He needs to spot his braking zone. He's going to watch the car in front brake, and he brakes so much later. And he was lucky actually to not hit. He done well to avoid Al Brown there, because Al Brown moved to the inside to stop him from making that move, but it was too late. John had already committed.
Yeah, it was such an unlucky little incident there. And of course, I would say for me, John Brown did an incredible job. Like you say, he went to the inside hoping that that the position would present itself. Al Brown went over to cover and he thought, right, okay, I either hit the car in front or throw the car off the track, and he did the right thing, threw the car off the track, sacrificed his own place just to make sure there wasn't an incident, and that's great to see. There's always great sportsman like conduct in this series, so it's nice to see that it continues on much the same. We do have results for you. Let's try and get them up on screen. There you go. Tom Stanley takes maximum points here this evening in Heat 2. 7 seconds clear. Why has Spotify suddenly all of a sudden stopped? So 7 seconds clear is Tom Stanley from Dan Mould. Then it's, like you say, Dan Mould and Ignia Motorsport in second. Ignia Motorsport take the latter 2 spots on the podium, with Ashley Gafael there as well in third. Then it's Mark Draper, Carl Lukeman, Lee Dye, Al Brown, Fraser Garrity, John Brown, Mike Wilson rounds out the top 10. I'm not sure why that has happened. Has somebody had a penalty? Anthony Gaskin. Anthony Gaskin crossed the line in 6th. He's gone through on the timing as finishing 11th. So Anthony Gaskin, evidently with some sort of penalty, does put Mike Wilson into the top 10. A great debut night for himself. And of course, Lee Dye finishing right the way up there in 6th. Then it's Craig Walters, Ben Dana, Dean Catherwood, David Smith, Anthony James Meyer, Ricardo Neto, Andy Lovesey, and then I think we've just got a few more retirements as well. There you go, Derek Crowther, Scott Tuffy and Jason Guara. Again, not taking to the grid, annoyingly, but I'm assuming we will have a fair few interviews to get through, because that was one hectic evening, and I'm sure some of the drivers just can't wait to tell us what it was like from their perspective. So what I will do...
There's a decent points haul there for SRL, Jack, over Ignia Motorsport with all the issues early on in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. It will massively help their championship. So we do have a lot of drivers in the interview room. I don't know who to bring in. I'm just going to have to grab one. Let's bring Tom Stanley into the commentary box. First of all, well done this evening, Tom. It was a great night from yourself. Of course, race 1, you got your elbows out. You had a few little moments, but I've got to say, race 2, you picked your points, got past Carl Lukeman at the easiest opportunity, and there you go. You just went into the distance. 7 seconds clear at the line. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I was very surprised by my start. I think that's probably the best start I've ever done in the TCR. Yeah, it was crucial getting past them quite early. I know how quick Dan and Ash, all those guys are. So if I can clear them as soon as I could, I had a consistent pace to be able to pull out and or even maintain. So yeah, great race from race 2.
Yeah, it was a great show you put on for us, and you evidently know how to pilot one of these cars around this Zolder circuit. And just almost tell me what the car handles like around here, because you've got the high curbs, you've got the undulation, you've got the heavy braking zones, you've got the fast corners, and of course when you've got 23 cars behind you, there must be a fair bit of pressure. How do you cope with that while also handling one of these cars around here?
Well, I don't like Zolder, so I don't know how well I did in race 1 and race 2, really. But yeah, it's very stop-start in some places, and it's very fast-flowing in others. But yeah, you've got to be careful of the curves, because you can get a lot of damage on the underbody of the car. But again, it's just trying to be clean, just kind of let the car roll through some of the slower speed corners, and hopefully not run wide, because the barriers are quite close, especially near the final corner if you do muck up the chicane.
Yeah, it seemed like if you went off the road, there was only one way you were going, and that was towards the concrete barrier. We saw a few drivers full foul of that this evening, and I'm not sure whether it's something you think about. We've got a few drivers that take it into consideration and a few drivers that don't. Points this evening. You've taken maximum points from Heat 2. Is it something that bothers you? Are you really massively complacent with the championship, or is it just sit back and just enjoy it, because that's what we're here for at the end of the day? But you've got to admit, winning and getting that points haul, it must be a good feeling.
it was nice to get a win under the belt quite early on in the season. Being, I think this is my second round as I missed the last round.
Yeah.
But I'm not really worried about the championship. TCR Racing is there to have fun with it. In the end of the day, if I am in contention near the end of the season, then I will have to kind of change my mindset. But I'm just having fun with this.
Well, I've got to say, it was you put on a great show for us this evening, and obviously well done again for the win. And we hope to see you out at Donington Park National in a couple of weeks' time. But as per the script and as per every other interview that's ever taken place here, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Not really. I just really jumped on, done a bit of practice, and managed to get the time in. But again, thanks to the guys at Asymmetric, just supporting me. So, but yeah. Thank you for putting on another great show.
No problem. And once again, well done this evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Donington Park.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. That was Tom Stanley there, Heat 2 winner. And Jack, it's all on you now. Who do you want to bring in? You've got a choice of Mark Draper, Dan Mould, and Ashley Gaffale. I know who the fans will want, but it's at the end of the day who you would want to bring in.
Do you know what? I'm going to save that one for you. You can talk to Mark and Mark's fan club. But let's bring in Dan Mould. I wouldn't mind a chat with Dan. Current, well, I don't know if he's the current championship leader anymore, but Dan Mould, 2, you can't really complain with that, Dan. That's a P1 and a P2, almost maximum points haul. How do you feel?
Good. It was race 2. Wow, it was just a game of dodgems for the first few laps. I think Mark got past me on the third or fourth lap, and then I was just trying to stick with him and Ash and just try and bulldoze his way through the pack. We caught up Carl, Anton quite quickly. It was good. I was sweating, but yeah, it was really good. First race, I had a few laps where Mark really caught me up and he put the pressure on. I made a couple of mistakes. And then I think he got a slowdown towards the end, and he just gave me that 2-second gap and that breathing space, so I could just concentrate on putting the laps down. But yeah, I'm happy with the first and the second. It was good, especially with the caliber of races in it. It's good. It's good points.
Yeah. So can you tell? I'm interested to know your mindset. So as a racing driver in these Audis, you've got Mark Draper was ahead of you, and then you see him make that mistake on race 2. I think you were in 3rd or 4th at the time, maybe even further back. You see him make the mistake and effectively gain 2 positions. Do you celebrate in the fact that you've gained 2 positions and he's no longer in your mirrors, or do you kind of feel a little bit disappointed because you sort of relish that close battle that you were having with him in both races?
That was when he had a collision, didn't he, with the guys in front on turn 1, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, that's the one.
And then, I'm not going to lie, it's as much as it's good, to win or, to take that position, there's nothing better than battling with a guy who's on, who's on pace with you, and he's got the correct braking zones. He matches you in the braking zones, and it's nose to tail. There's nothing better, whether you finish 20th or 1st. If you're racing like that, that's why I do it. It's you can't beat it. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I was a little bit gutted. I do want to see Mark get a win because he deserves it. But as soon as I went past him, my goal was to catch Ash and try and get past him with a little bit less arrogance because he's a teammate. There was an occasion where I had the move and I thought, no, I need to back out here. It's too dangerous. But yeah, you're right. It's close racing for me. Overhauls winning.
I think we were actually on board with you on the move that you backed out of, because we were saying it was looking feisty. It looked like you were sort of driving smart again because your teammates. We thought, maybe he's going to settle for 3rd, and then you looked really feisty on that last lap, and obviously got him down the straight into that first chicane.
Yeah, me and Ash have done quite a lot of races together in the officials, in a few other leagues. We respect each other. We know how each other race. So yeah, it's plus we are teammates, so I always try and respect them as much as I can. There's been a couple of occasions where I have taken a couple of teammates out in some league races, but I'm going to try and eliminate that going forward.
Well, congrats on your win in your P2 today, Dan. I'll take lead from Jack. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before you go?
No, just anyone who's watching. I had a quick look in the YouTube chat, and I want to say hello to all the Mark Draper fans who are giving me a bit of a bit of banter. But no, yeah, thanks to you. I'm looking forward to watching it back, and thanks to Jack.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you. I'm going to pass you back over to Jack and bring in the one you've all been waiting for, I guess.
That was Dan Mould there in the commentary box. Always a pleasure to bring him in, and we've got to bring him in. His fan club has arisen in numbers here this evening. I'm sure he didn't know until now, but I've got to say, Mark, you are an incredibly popular man in the chat, and you have got some very, very, very loyal fans, and some of them that I think even got personally offended when you made a slight mistake. But first of all, welcome to the commentary box. Second of all, well done. Despite the results this evening, that was an incredibly strong drive from yourself all night, and yeah, just talk us through what you thought.
Well, it was fun, a lot of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed the first race. I knew I had a bit of a bad start, so I thought I'll try and fend Ash off. And I got on the back of Dan, and I thought I'll be able to have a go at the end, but I ended up getting a slow down, and then that buggered my race. And race 2 was it was so fun, just the amount of overtakes and carnage, and it was good.
Yeah, I've got to say it was great to watch. Of course, you and Dan Mould sparring partners now, and has this sparked a rivalry? Of course, Dan Mould previous to the start of this season and the final few rounds of last season, he was a Simulation Racing Leagues driver, moved to Ignia Motorsport, and he's had an absolute storm over there, and of course they're constantly drafting new drivers. So has this sparked a little rivalry between yourself, because you're so close on pace? I think at one point you set exactly the same lap time, and they were both the quickest lap of the race. So are we going to see more of this throughout the rest of the season?
I'm hoping so. To be fair, this is like the first season driving this car, and I know Dan's quick, and the thing is with Dan is not only quick, he's very, very consistent, where that's where I'm lacking a little bit on my consistency. But I think by the end of the season, I think I'll be definitely up there with them, fighting every race, I hope. But yeah, and the boys as well, like Tom and that, and Ash, they're all quick, so it's loads of fun.
Yeah.
Actually.
I can imagine being behind the wheel of one of these Audis, battling away for what was 40 minutes this evening. It must have been fairly tiring. 2 weeks' time, on the 26th of March, we go to Donington Park National Circuit. Talk us through what you think of that. A circuit you like, a circuit you hate, or what's your outlook on that?
I've never raced it in the TCR. I've raced it a little bit in the GT3s, so it'll be a little bit interesting to see what I can do there. But yeah, it seems quite a slippy track for me. I don't really like the low grip tracks, but we'll see. A bit of practice. I'm hoping to be at the front with Dan again. Maybe I'll come up on top this time.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how that plays out. Of course, 2 weeks' time, 26th of March, plenty of time for practice, and I'm sure you don't need it going off tonight's performance. But yeah, it's definitely worth putting a few laps in, like you say. But before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live on stream?
Just all the boys in the league, to be honest. They're all good lads. Good crack in the Discord as well as good racing. So yeah, that's just it. And news, obviously, for the commentary.
Great
yeah,
stuff.
Do a great job.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it's well worth a watch back after tonight. You gave us plenty to talk about, of course, but until 2 weeks' time, until the 26th of March, we'll see you there.
Yeah, great. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Mark Draper there. There's only one more to bring in, Jack, so I'm going to hand him over to you, the last man in the interview room this evening, Ashley Gaffale, Jack Johns.
Yeah, so Ashley, nice to meet you. That was a hell of a race. Congrats on your P3. First thing I want to know about, well, actually, tell us how you thought race 2 went from the start, because it looked a bit feisty out there.
Race 2, yeah, that was a tricky one. I was basically just biding my time with that one, just seeing what the guys in front were doing and whether they was going to make mistakes and hopefully just pick up places that way.
Yeah, it looked like you when you secured the P2 about midway through, it looked like you could have got a little bit of a gap and held it, but then obviously Dan, once he got past Draper, just started to hunt you down. How did you feel about that battle with your teammate?
Yeah, I'm used to if I ever do get in front of Dan, I'm used to Dan always putting the pressure on, and he always gets past. He's quicker than me. But Zolder's not a favourite track of mine. I don't particularly enjoy it. I do okay around it, but I don't enjoy it. So yeah.
Are you happy with the P3?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I seem to lose quite a bit of time in places, making silly mistakes. I just never seem to get a good, consistent lap.
Yeah. And speaking of circuits, actually, I know what you mean about Zolder, but Jack reminded me it's Donington in 2 weeks' time. How are you around there?
Yeah, I like Donington. Yeah, I'd be looking for a top 5 again.
Have you driven it in these cars before? Because they're very, from what the limited experience I've driven in them, they're very understeery, and Donington's going to be one of those circuits where I would assume it's going to accentuate that, especially with corners like the old hairpin and the off-camber blind right-hander. What do you think these cars are going to be like around there?
Yeah, I've done a few. I think there was a couple of officials last season. I'm sure I've done a league race as well there, but yeah, for some reason I seem to just hook it up at Donington, and I seem to do quite well. So I'd be surprised if, as long as I don't make any mistakes, I'd be surprised if I don't finish in the top 5. That's where I'm aiming for anyway.
Yeah, very, very fast circuit. We look forward to it. Just before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to say or anyone you'd like to thank?
Just obviously thanks to you guys for the commentary, and the SRL boys for putting the league on.
No worries. That's Ashka Fail there, P3 in race 2.
So Ashley Gafael joined us in the commentary box there, like you say, Jack, for P3 in Heat 2, and annoyingly, it's that time of night already. We've got to say goodbye. But for the first time having you in the commentary box, Jack, you couldn't have picked a better night. That was the closest we've ever seen these drivers from season 1, season 2. They've never raced that close. We've never seen drivers just go tooth and nail like that to that extent for that long before. So you really did pick a great night for it. Any final sort of closing statements?
No, I'm glad they put the show on for me. What a welcome.
Well, I'm sure there's a hell of a lot more where that came from, and it'll be a pleasure to have you back in the commentary box once again. But like I said, everybody, 26th of March, note it down in your calendars. We go to Donington Park National Circuit. Once again, 2 20-minute races. Same time, same place. Make sure you pop by, of course. Thank you to the Simulation Racing League sponsors of Pingin, SM Commuter Solutions, and Data Shred. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. But until the 26th of March, bye-bye.